Dear learners, today I am going to discuss the topic theories of truth, correspondence, coherence, and pragmatic theory of truth. This topic has been classified into two parts. The first part deals with correspondence and coherence theory of truth. After going through this unit, dear learners, you will be able to define truth in philosophy, identify what are the theories of truth, describe the correspondence theory of truth, and also describe the coherence theory of truth. This unit introduces to you the different theories of truth. You know that a judgment may be true or false, but the question is how truth and falsity are known or tested in philosophy. Philosophers admit three principal tests of truth. They are correspondence theory of truth, coherence theory of truth, and pragmatic theory of truth. Realists support the correspondence and pragmatic theories of truth. The correspondence theory of truth considers correspondence to be the test of truth. It advocates that a judgment is true if there is a correspondence between the judgment and fact. Otherwise, the judgment will be false. The coherence theory considers coherence to be the test of truth. It views that a judgment is true if it coheres with a system. On the other hand, the pragmatic theory of truth considers workability or meaningfulness and utility or usefulness as the test of truth. So the pragmatic theory says that a judgment is true if it is workable or meaningful or useful. To sum up, correspondence, coherence, and workability or meaningfulness are the three tests of truth. Dear learners, before we talk about the theories of truth, let us think about what is truth in philosophy. Philosophers view that truth is an attribute of beliefs, opinions, theories, doctrines, statements, etc. According to philosophers, there are mainly three theories of truth: correspondence theory of truth, coherence theory of truth, and pragmatic theory of truth. Dear learners, now we are going to discuss the correspondence theory of truth. The correspondence theory is the oldest among the three theory of truths. It is found in Aristotle's Metaphysics. He formulates the theory as such: to say of what is that it is, or of what is not that is not, is true. This formulation can be symbolically represented in modern logic as P is true if and only if P. The correspondence theory holds that there is a direct correspondence between judgment and reality. As for instance, grass is green is a judgment, but the question is whether the judgment is true or false. Correspondence theory holds that there is direct correspondence between grass and green. It is not the case that grass is not green. That is why it can be held that the judgment grass is green is true. It is a common sense theory of truth. Common sense holds that objects exist independently of knowledge in the external world. Our sense organs directly perceive that grass is green. In this context, our sense organs do not depend on previous knowledge of things, which idealism advocates. Therefore, this theory of truth is known as direct realism or naive realism. Common sense holds that our mind comes in direct contact with the objects. As for instance, people perceive the sun revolves around the earth. It is indeed correct in perception, but in reality it is not correct. On the other hand, the earth revolves around the sun is a true judgment. Therefore, naive realist view cannot be accepted, which assert a direct correspondence between judgment and reality. New realism is an improvement upon naive realism because new realists view that truth consists in the correspondence between knowledge and its object. According to neorealism, the contents of knowledge are numerically identical with things known. As for instance, when we know a tree, we say that it is the same object which is present in the external world and also in our consciousness. Some neorealists say that it is not the case that the tree bodily enters into our consciousness. Rather, there is a structural identity between the tree and consciousness. This theory is also not satisfactory. Here also the correspondence between knowledge and its object is confusing because we do not see in what sense we can speak of a correspondence between the two. It can be said that there is no subjective content of the mind that might correspond to the object. Another form of correspondence theory is known as the copy theory of ideas. It is found in Locke's book Essay Concerning Human Understanding. He says that ideas are constituted by the objects are the copies of the objects. But this theory is also not satisfactory because objects are external to the mind and its ideas. So knowledge cannot be directly known by us. Ideas are subjective in the sense that they are private. And objects are objective in a sense that they are public or can be known. Therefore, it will be wrong to say that knowledge is a direct correspondence between ideas and objects. Another form of the correspondence theory is the logical theory of correspondence. It is advocated by Barton Russell. This theory holds that truth is defined by correspondence to fact and not by experiences. A proposition is true when it corresponds to fact, but a proposition may be true without our knowing it as true. As for instance, the proposition "it is raining" is true if it is actually true. It may be the case that you may be sleeping at the time when it is raining and do not realize that it is true, but that will not make the proposition only any less true, but that will not make the proposition any less true. If you wake up and look out of the window of your room, you would know that the proposition "it is raining" is true. So the logical theory of correspondence holds that truth depends on the character of correspondence to some real facts, and the knowledge of truth depends on its verification by experience. But it is not that all true propositions are verified. As for instance, general propositions like "all men are mortal" are true insofar as they correspond to facts. But it cannot be verified by experience because we can have no experience of the unlimited number of instances. Hence, we conclude that the truth of a proposition does not depend on its verification by experience. Rather, we can say that truth of a proposition depends on its correspondence to fact. Megarian liar paradox. You Bills, a member of the school of Megara, seems to have protested against the basic Platonic and Aristotelian propositions. Here, Bills has shown their position by saying about a man who says, "I am lying," or "what I am now saying is false, and it is true if it is itself false, and it is false if what the man is saying is not false." Therefore, this view leads to the position that whatever we say about the truth or falsehood of an utterance entails its own opposite. Aristotle's one-sided view on truth and falsehood of sentences depends on the matter of fact. The sentence that deals with the fact is considered to be a true sentence. Otherwise, the sentence will be false. This paradox of the liar was much discussed by both ancient and modern medieval writers. It undoubtedly presents a serious problem to anyone by attempting to give a satisfactory account of truth and falsehood. Now, dear learners, we'll be discussing now another very important theory of truth, that is coherence theory of truth. You have learned the correspondence theory of truth. Now, let us learn the coherence theory of truth. The coherence theory considers coherence to be the test of truth. It views that a judgment is true if it coheres with a system. It entails that coherence is the test of truth. The idealists support the coherence theory of truth. Hegel, Bradley, and Bosanquet escaped this theory of truth. It also has been accepted by logical positivists like Neurath, Hampel, etc. But there is a difference between logical positivists and idealists. The logical positivist theory of coherence is found among a system. It is the totality of all possible systems and is true by itself. On the other hand, the Hegelian form of the coherence theory is the theory of absolutist. It differs from logical positivist in two important ways. It is not the consistency of formal logic which may characterize a system and make it valid, but not true. A system of thought may be formally consistent but materially false and therefore not correct. As for instance, think about Gold Mountain. This example is formally and logically correct but not materially, in the sense that Gold Mountain is not found in experience. The Hegelians do not advocate the view given by the logical positivist. According to the logical positivist, there are different systems of truth. The different systems of truth are inconsistent with one another because a proposition which is true in one sense may be false in another. Against this view, the Hegelians say that the ideal of knowledge is a system not of truth, but of truth. They advocate that truth is all inclusive and harmonious whole. Now, dear learners, there will be very important concept relating to the coherence theory of truth. That is degrees of truth. Coherence theory also admits degrees of truth because a judgment which is consistent and coheres with the all comprehensive system of knowledge is absolutely true. But the problem is that we cannot attain such type of absolute truth. We know that an absolute truth is an ideal truth. A judgment becomes more true if it is coheres with the whole system of knowledge. So, coherence admits degrees of truth. Bradley, an absolute idealist, therefore views that judgments are partially true and partially false. His view is that truth must exhibit the mark of expansion and all inclusiveness. He, through this saying, admits degrees of truth. From the ordinary viewpoint, it can be said that individual statements lead to degrees of truth in comparison to the whole system of truth. So a judgment may be partially true or partially false. That is why all human errors may be said to be partially true. Hence, it can be said that coherence theory of truth admits degrees of truth. The coherence theory of truth is also not satisfactory because this theory of truth leads to relativism in the sense that it admits different degrees of truth. So the question comes to our mind, what is the objectivity of truth then? In answer, it can be said that truth cannot be varying. If it is, then telling lies by someone will also be true. And as a result, we fail to distinguish between truth and falsity in our practical life. But the advocates of the coherence theory do not accept this objection because of first people, because thought because the example like the earth is the center of the universe. This was accepted as true knowledge until the truth being discovered that not the earth, rather the sun is the center of the universe. So it can be said that the first view was inconsistent when the latter view is being proved to be true by Galileo. The sun is the center of the universe. Now, dear learners, this is all about the correspondence and coherence theory of truth. Now, we have to discuss some highlighting points, some basic points of the first part of the video, theories of truth, correspondence, coherence, and pragmatic theory of truth. Aristotle formulates the theory as such to say of what is that it is, or of what is not that is not is true. The correspondence theory holds that there is a direct correspondence between judgment and reality. As for instance, milk is white is a judgment, but the question is whether the judgment is true or false. Correspondence theory holds that there is a direct correspondence between milk and white. It is not the case that milk is not white. That is why it can be held that judgment milk is white is true. It is a common sense theory of truth. Common sense holds that objects exist independently of knowledge in the external world. Our sense organs directly perceive that milk is white. This theory is also known as direct realism because our common sense holds that our mind comes in direct contact with the objects. The coherence theory of truth holds that a judgment is true if it coheres with our beliefs within a system. It is generally accepted by the idealists. Idealists like Bradley, and Bosanquet upholds this theory of truth. Now, dear learners, in order to know more about this unit, you have to follow some very significant, very important books. S. C. Chatterjee's book, The Problems of Philosophy, then Thomas Patrick, Introduction to Philosophy, D.M. Datta's book, Ship Currents of Contemporary Philosophy, J. Hosper's book, An Introduction to Philosophical Analysis. Now, dear learners, this is all about the first part of the unique theories of truth, correspondence, coherence, and pragmatic theory of truth. Thank you.